What's going on, guys? I just got back from an awesome weekend in Italy, and I'm ready to jump into this again if you are. What I want to start out by talking about is it can be easy at the outset to say, okay, I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm super stoked about the idea of going into business for myself and making some more money and all this kind of stuff. And then we immediately hit a roadblock where we think, okay, that's all great, that's all fine and dandy, but what the fuck should I be doing? What specifically should I do? How do I even figure out what I should be doing? This is a really important question because obviously we cannot get to somewhere if we have no plan on how we're going to get there, and if we don't even know where we're trying to go, we're definitely not going to get anywhere. I am a big fan of lists. I think that the first thing that you should do when you're trying to figure out what you should be doing, what business you should be running, is to make a list. On the one side, 5 to 7 things that you enjoy doing, that you really like to do. On the other one, 5 to 7 things that you know that you are good at doing. This can be anything from like numbers to drawing to, I don't care, lifting weights or whatever. And the other list can be anything from I like to drink beer to I like to lift weights to I like to do tattoos. It doesn't matter. But when we have both of those lists, what we're going to have is a list of stuff that you're good at, that you know you're good at doing, and a list of things that you actually might want to do. Somewhere in there is going to be this crossover of a place where we can find something that we can do to support ourselves and that we'll actually enjoy doing to support ourselves. Another way that you can do this is you can start out by saying, okay, I want to do this or that if money was no option. If I never had to worry about money ever again, what would I still be doing? Because a lot of figuring out what business you should be in is figuring out what your purpose is. If you just want to make money, then this probably isn't going to be the video series for you, because what I'm talking about is not just making money, it's making money off something that you believe in and having a higher purpose, something that you feel passionate about that you can also make support you. So if you can think of whatever it would be that you would be doing if money was no option, that is a really good indicator of what you should be doing. And a third way that we can look into this is say, what's something that you do now that you don't really charge money for, that you probably could charge money for, something you spend a lot of time on. This could be anything from, helping friends out with nutrition advice and workout programs, to drawing, to helping friends with their taxes, or anything like this. Something that you are good at, that you've learned how to do, that you do for a lot of people. So when we're getting into all this kind of stuff too, we have to realize that the idea of creating business, the idea of creating an entrepreneurship is essentially you are removing obstacle. You are taking something and making it easier for people to do. We don't have to think about reinventing the wheel here necessarily, because the next concept that we want to think about is when you figure out what it is that you're going to be doing, you have to understand that one of the principles here is just like in life. We give ourselves the permission to exist by being the best at what we exist to do. This is natural law. This is might is right, and it goes here just like it goes every other place. We don't have to be the first to do something. We've just got to be the best at doing it. So don't get discouraged by the fact that between like 200 and 500,000 businesses start up every single year in America. Only think about the fact that you're on a battlefield with a lot of people that you have to prove that you are more consistent than, and simply put, better than them. The whole idea here, guys, is to get the fuck out there and say, okay, this guy does this thing that I want to do. How can I crush this guy fucking underfoot by saying that there is no way he's going to be able to do what I do better than I do it? And I'm going to put in more time, more hours, more thought, more innovation, and more effort into doing this than he did. And in a year, he will be gone and I will still be here. The other thing is that this concept of consistency is so crucial with business, because with all of these startup guys, I guarantee you 100% that most of those guys, the bigger percentage of those guys, won't be here in a year, not even because anybody put them out of business, but because they fucking put themselves out of business because they're lazy and they have no staying power. So a lot of this comes down to innovation. How do I be better at this thing than the people who are already here? And consistency. How do I outlast the people who are already here by being tougher mentally, tougher physically, tougher emotionally, and all this kind of stuff? Because you're shutting down a lot of naysaying, you're engaging in a lot of risk, you're engaging in a lot of stress throughout the course of the day. This stuff builds up and a lot of people can't handle it and they shut down and they quit. This is not a place for quitters. So what I want you guys to do this week, when you're starting to think about this idea of a startup or a business, and if you don't have an idea for one, take those lists, write them down. Figure out what you would like to do. Figure out what you're good at doing. Figure out what you already do and don't make money at, and figure out what you do if money wasn't even a factor. Take those things, amalgamate them, distill them into a concept, and then ask yourselves, this concept exists out here, but how can I do it better? How can I make it more unique? How can I make it more interesting? We're going to talk more this week in the email list. You make sure you sign up for this link. We've got free articles and stuff like that going out every week. So make sure you get your name on that list. We're going to talk more about expanding on this idea. We're going to talk a little bit about freeing up some of your time if you've already got a job and all this stuff and you're trying to start up something. And get all that stuff written down and figured out. And what we're going to get into a little bit later and in maybe one of the next videos is we're going to talk about, okay, I've got my business, I've got my plan sorted out. How do I start getting this out there? How do I control the flow of information out there? We're going to talk a lot about social media and how right now we have more tools available to us than ever before in the history of the world in order to get what we want to do out there and make it known to people and make them see that we are the best at it. So for right now, let's get the idea together and let's figure out and let's remember that as a job, as a business, as a brand, whatever, your purpose is to remove obstacles from people's path. In Operation Werewolf, we exist for the purpose of removing weakness, banality, all these things out of people's way, and we do this by providing good content. If anyone asked me what I wanted to do if money wasn't an option, I would still tell them that I wanted to be a writer. I like to write, I like to draw, I like to come up with concept and idea, all these different things, and what I'm good at is I'm good at articulating and getting people excited to do stuff. What these things did is come together and form this distillation of this thing that I would be doing if it made me money or not, but I found a way to distill it into a concept that is also able to support me. So this is what we're talking about here this week, guys, and there can be some feedback here. Don't be afraid to reach out on that email list and talk to us about the concepts that we discussed today. And in the article that goes out with this, there's going to be an invitation to a private Instagram group where you guys can come on and we can discuss a lot of these concepts as well. So let's get an idea crystallized in our heads, and then next time let's start talking about how we get that idea out there to the world.
Merat minimum, Fiscal ganga ya de guna sin sidan ayasei.